the reason I had to quit Mumford Sons is because in March 2021, I was tweeting throughout the pandemic about the books I was reading, and one of the books I tweeted about was Andy Ngo, who's American conservative journalist's book about Antifa, documenting the BLM riots of 2020, and the Antifa cells across the states. And I only had 3,000 Twitter followers, so this is absolutely insane what happened. But there was just a giant pile on, and then including a lot of musicians that I'd worked with before, some of whom had my phone number and yet decided to be part of that pile on instead of calling me. I know I make a point, I'll never attack anyone on Twitter if I've got their phone number.
Interesting.
Because I'm like, I can always just address them, or I won't write articles about people if I can contact them directly.
My only concern with that is that doesn't that then create a sort of level, and I know that's not the intention, of protection for those who are in contact with members of the media, so then they'll be protected because they'll just get a private message, whereas people who don't have those contacts will just get slaughtered in the press.
Yeah, but although I'm not the press, so I think it's just, that's a possible consequence, but I think as out of etiquette, I think that if I've got someone's number...
Well, they backstab.
I also say I do as much as I can to resist ad hominem, whoever it is.
Yeah.
I make some exceptions, like for Sadiq Khan, who he's run my city into the ground, but that's another conversation. But apart from that, I try my best to avoid ad hominem where I can. But yeah, I think having seen a lot of these people like pile on when they could have contacted me personally, I was like quite shocked about that. So I wouldn't want to do that to someone else, even when I see often people I know making or doing things I disagree with, let's say. So the pile-on was political because I by extension was critical of BLM and Antifa. BLM was supported unquestioningly by the music industry, despite what was written on their website being anti-family, anti-capitalist, being pro-Marxist. I'd read all the BLM literature long before Patrice Carncolor's, all of that, and it's explicitly Marxist, and a pure evil doctrine as far as I'm concerned.
Anti-Zionist.
They were. What's interesting now is that a lot of my progressive Jewish friends are suddenly realizing how terrible this woke stuff is because they've turned on them. But they were anti-Zionist. Some of the BLM leaders in Britain were on pro-Palestine, anti-Israel marches back in 2020 and 2021. Like this isn't like a revelation. Like this was always clear what they stood on Israel.
Yeah.
And like being anti-colonialist, what do you think that means? Like they literally meant that.
Yeah.
And so anyway, this is maybe this is my problem for like reading things too much, or like. But anyway, reading things has got me in trouble.
You're like a mad reader, though, aren't you? You're like known as like the guy who reads loads of books. Like your house is apparently filled with books. And
I try to. I there's definitely I don't read enough. But I like to look into things before I support them.
How many books do you read in a year? I only asked because the trigonometry guys were saying that they couldn't move around your house for books everywhere.
I try and get through 50 pages a day just to
That's a hefty amount.
Yeah, but I mean, in the lockdown, I was reading a few a week. And touring, there were some tours where I could read a book a day because you're just waiting 12 hours for showtime. And that was awesome, actually. I kind of got my education touring. Particularly after I stopped drinking, because then I really had a lot of time. Before then, I was just recovering from the night before. I criticized BLM. This thing blew up, and then there was just a total pile on. They kept coming after the band. By the end of the weekend, it was a segment on The View and Tucker, and I wasn't used to that stuff because I'd not really gone into the media game. I was just doing. I was music. I was in the band. That was like a whole world. Even though there was a sort of odd relationship with media and things being, written about our albums over the 15 years, whatever. But I'd never seen that side of media. And for me to continue in the band was untenable. If I expressed my opinions, it was hurting them. But at the same time, I'd been made to do this apology, which was just got a kind of was a total embarrassment to me, and so it was the only way out for me. So anyway, I cleared my conscience, and they're fine. So it's kind of it worked out. But and it might be the case that particular period, like 2020, 2021, we were all locked up. COVID had turned us all mad.
Yeah.
There was all of these marches going on, whether it was BLM or there was anti-lockdown marches. The only ones I went to were the pro-Hong Kong marches and a couple of Uyghur marches, but they weren't well attended.
Just you running around like save the Uyghurs.
Save the Uyghurs.
Man.
I think at the most there was 25 of us at one Uyghur protest. Wow. That's one particular issue. You'd have hoped that more Muslims would have stood by. Some did, but very few.
They don't care.
I don't think they care that much, no. And another thing about the Uyghurs, I did some work on the Uyghur stuff. And there was the Uyghur Tribunal, which was in 2020, I think it was end of 2020, or maybe it was 2021 at Church House in Westminster, and half the room were Jews. So when Muslims are actually being genocided, as they are in Xinjiang in Western China, the Jews are there in solidarity.
Yeah.
And that's what hurt me so much. I actually didn't finish the story that we were in the beginning of this conversation, which was that on October 9th, I think it was, I went to the Israel Vigil on Whitehall, and as described earlier, there were celebrations at the Israel Embassy. I think it was in Kensington or wherever it is in London. But on the tube home, I was confronted by some people returning from that event, and they had their keffirs on. And they were, chests puffed out, sauntering jubilantly, let's say that way, on the tube. And I saw this and I wanted to break down, but I also wanted to really hurt that person. And I didn't. I resisted. But the anger I felt, that's the response, of this heinous crime. I'm very concerned about the state of our country and
no, but it's a really interesting point, because I think what we've got here is blokes, and there are blokes like that, blokes on a night out, and then you've got these blokes who are also radicalized far-right religious people, right? They're as far-right as it gets, really, with some beliefs. If we're talking about people who are extreme Muslims, really quite far, but who are enabled by a very strong far left at the moment to basically do what they want and to somehow come out of it righteous, as the righteous ones. So when you've got that mix of sort of testosterone out on a rally, we all know what, we've been to football games and stuff, what happens, what kicks off. Stadiums and rock music and stuff, people really kick off. Weddings, jumping around, pushing everyone. Letting that out.
It's funny that you mentioned the football thing, because speaking to Freddie Sayers of Unheard, who reported on one of the pro-Palestine march, and he said that they were literally singing, "We love you, Gaza, we do, we love you." So there is a football chant element to it, there is an unholy alliance there, the far right and the far left.
Yeah, if you give people license to go out and be horrible, I think we generally a percentage of us do it, and that's really sad. And but it's reality. It's humans. And I think we've got to be worried about that. The lead, Marcus Mumford, wanted you to stay. He said he begged you to stay.
There was no objection when I explained the situation.